And welcome back, everyone, to Box Office Report. Today on the 23rd of March, 2025. I got the number one right, but did not get the box office right from what I can tell. I thought Novocaine would still be a little higher than what it is now. But Snow White debuts with 43 million. Black Bag, surprisingly, is able to hold on to the number 2 spot with 42.2 million. Captain America Brave New World still hangs in there. Went there at 4.1 million. Mickey 17 made our 3.9 million for the number 4 spot. And Novocaine rounds out the top 5 with $3.7 million. Now, there is something I want to touch on real quick. Now, because I imagine someone will bring it up. Why aren't you bringing up that Ne-Zha 2 is now the number 1 movie in the world, and I think like they say like the something highest grossing of all time, animated film at $1.89 billion. Because I don't believe a word of that. The only reason I'm even talking about this right now is because Box Office Mojo is legitimately reporting it and adding it in there. So why am I not including it? Why basically am I saying no? As far as I'm concerned, the number 1 film worldwide right now is still Captain America Brave New World. Why am I saying that? It's very simple. Because I don't believe for 1 second that it made $1.8 some odd billion in China. Because I did the math. I talked about this a while back, but I did the math and I looked at some of the highest grossing films of all time and I looked at the Chinese box office. And while they were huge, not one movie, not even Avatar or anything like that, cracked the $1 billion market in China. At least I don't believe it did. I'll get the all-time up here real quick because it bears looking at real quick just to be sure I'm not talking out my ass when I say this. Let's see, Avatar. Okay, so $2.9 billion worldwide. Let's see here now. All releases, original release, all territories. Where are you, China? In China. It made, what is it? Chinese opening is 220 million is what it made. Wait, is that the opening? Or that's the, okay, yeah, it made $202 million in China. Now, again, the worldwide is huge for that movie. So many other films came in and did a lot. At least that's what this is reading as. It made $202 million, which honestly does sound small, but that's the gross. So you're telling me the worldwide sensation, phenomenon, Avatar, which made $2.9 billion. Now, don't get me wrong. Every film is different, and some films that, for example, I've seen films that allegedly make like $700 million in China and barely do anything over here. But you're telling me that Avatar did not make its money back in China. Well, let's look at another one real quick. With Avengers, Marvel, with beloved, they, suck up from the sweet teat of China. But seriously, let's see if we can find China here real quick. 632 million worldwide gross. Nowhere near enough. Let's look at Titanic real quick here. Where'd you go, China? I just saw it. Where, China? 153. Wow, that didn't do a lot in China. But point being, you're going to look me square in the face and tell me that this one film that you made almost $1.9 billion on its own from just your people. I'm sorry. Someone's lying. Because they don't follow the same structure of recording their box office like a lot of our other countries do, like almost everyone else does. So, and if I have Chinese viewers, I'm not trying to be mean towards you when I say this, but the country, let's call it what it is, politics, it's a bit egocentric. They're a bit full of themselves when it comes to their presentation to the world. And so look, them saying it is one thing, but the fact is they won't go through other channels to confirm that. So as far as I know, they're lying about that. And I'm going to be honest, the numbers don't add up for that to make sense. The only reason I'm even talking about this right now is because earlier this week, Box Office Mojo finally recorded the amount. So There you go. I'm not saying it didn't make a lot of money. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm also not saying, I'm also saying I don't believe this number at all. So if anyone wants me to bring that up, I brought that up. Now then, let's talk about the actual stuff that came out this week. And the movie that is on everyone's lips right now, Snow White. Now, I did my review for it. I like it. It's got problems. But I liked it all right. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. But this film was tracking initially like between I think like 60 and 70, and then dropped from 50 to 60, and then dropped from 50 to 50 to 40 to 50. And so we end up with $43 million. Now, the actual budget of the film is a little hard to pin down because I have seen right now, if you like just Google it, and it'll say $209 million. But if you look at other reports, it says between 230 and 270, and that averages out roughly to 250, which is what I'm seeing other people say. I have not heard much. But then again, these are the same people who said, whatever film, like Captain America was made on like $300 million, which it was not. So I'm honestly more inclined to believe, because I know there was reshoots, but all films have reshoots. So, or at least they have them scheduled and they usually go through them. So I'm honestly more inclined to believe the 209 than the 250. Maybe I'd believe the 230, but the 270, the 250, those I find hard to believe. I am more because this film, while it looks like they did put money behind it, doesn't look like a $250 million. The 200, still, I'd be honest, you probably didn't need to do 200 million either, because frankly, Wicked is made, I think, on less and looks better than this film, despite the fact, it's a different film, obviously, but still, I bring up Wicked because it does have there's a similar visual vibe to it, a little bit. Not as vibrant as Wicked, not by a long shot, but it looked nice, and it looks kind of similar in tone, at least the way they've kind of designed some of the sets, particularly like the dwarves' house. That said, however, 43, let's just assume right now, for the time being, it's 209. This film actually didn't really have a very strong marketing budget, so I would not be shocked to say that the film's marketing budget isn't even 100 million. I tried looking it up, couldn't find it. My best guess is you're looking at between 50 and maybe 70, 75. I'm gonna highball that at 75. You're better to go on the high end and then be surprised than be on the low end and be surprised. But that would mean this film's made on roughly 284, which actually means it has to make right around what Captain America has to make. It has to make 420 to break even. 43 million ain't gonna cut it. And 83 million, well, not a bad start for some films, is just not enough. Now, maybe the international is really going to pick up later down the road. Maybe, fingers crossed, that can help it. But yeah, this is not a good opening. And I explained the whole controversy stuff in the review, so don't want to beat a dead horse on it. But did things like the controversy hurt it, or, did people not have interest? Someone put in the comments last time about what some of the reasons that the movies aren't making as much right now, or people aren't going to the movies. They brought up the economy. They brought up interest, and I can't remember the third option you brought up. But I'll say this: I think your third point about being interested in the movies, I think that might be the strongest one, because the economy argument, that's never really been a strong argument for not going to the movies. Not to say that it doesn't play a factor, but it's always been, if people were still going to the movies during the Depression back in the 30s, which they were, then you're still going to the movies now, is what I'm trying to get at. Now, that being said, there are still, to this day, like, as much as we are pretty much out of COVID, like the pandemic, COVID, all that, we still are recovering, like, from an industry perspective in many different industries, particularly the movies. And people, frankly, are still gun shy about it. Like, to this day, people are still gun shy about it. So I think that plays a little factor. Like I said, the economy, it's not a big enough factor to be the factor, I think. It can be attributing, but I don't think it's the major reason. But I think what you did say that, frankly, people just aren't interested right now in what's coming out. I think that might have been a bit of a nail on the head right there. Because if we look at what's come out so far and what's really happened, because we got the box worldwide right here, Captain America, people weren't interested enough. We had Agatha and we had Deadpool and Wolverine come out, so that helped bring a little bit of stuff back to the MCU. Unfortunately, this wasn't a very good outing for the MCU, so it didn't really get people interested. But good news for that when we talk about it, at least hit 400. So because they didn't make a decent enough film, that hurt its legs. People weren't talking about it the best. I mean, we had Dogman, which was fine. Bridget Jones mad about The Boy. We had Paddington, which is not on here because it technically came out last year. Macon 17 was a good movie, but was not marketed well. Snow White, right now, doesn't seem to have a huge amount of interest behind it. Now, that may also factor a little bit from the controversy. I use that in quotations because it's bullshit. The Monkey, sure, but now we're getting to films that didn't even need to make a lot, and most of these films aren't doing well. Like Novocaine isn't doing well, and that's actually a pretty fun movie. So I think there may be just a big lack of interest right now in a lot of the projects coming out. Now, not everything. I mean, Captain America still opened up at 80 some odd $1 million. So it's not like there's a lack of interest. I think people are just waiting for like the big blockbuster. They're waiting for the big show-stopping movies. Right now we're in a bit of a doldrum, and that's fine. And honestly, Disney has had a rough track record as of late. They definitely had some wins. They had some major wins last year, like huge wins, $2 billion+ wins. Hell, those two movies alone together are over $3 billion in just gross. If you take out the third, that's $2 billion. That they take up the third studio because that's $2 billion, and then you subtract their budgets and marketing, which frankly that's not a lot. Deadpool was like 300 altogether, and I think roughly speaking the same for Pixar. So that's six. They made basically a 1.5 billion on those films alone. Billion. And then they still ended up having a couple other really good films that did pretty well last year too. So I mean, yeah, and Moana made $1 billion. So yeah, it's Disney itself is actually fine at the moment. They can survive a couple mishaps. And we've gone on length of why Captain America didn't work out. Snow White, though, is just another in a long line of lackluster to okay to horrible Disney live action remakes that people just don't want to see. Or at least they're not interested in. My problem with this movie is the fact that you're remaking the Disney version of Snow White. But then you're like changing enough to try to update it, but make it feel different. And you're just not doing enough on either end. You're not doing enough to make it the same movie, and you're not doing enough to make it a different movie. You're like in the middle, and it works only to an extent. Add on the fact that the reviews are not the best for it, and people do listen to reviews. So there's probably a lot of mitigating factors to why this film did not succeed, or at least did not succeed in its opening weekend. We saw Mufasa, for example, open on 35 million and make over 700 million. So let's actually be clear. This opening weekend does not spell a death sentence for this film. It's not going to bite an apple and fall asleep like death. It's not a great start, but it's not the end of it. We'll have to see what the long-term legs are going to be, because it is going to have some competition, not this week, but when Minecraft comes out. But surprisingly, it's going to have a relatively clean run for a little bit until we get to Thunderbolts for the next real big blockbuster. Because let's be honest, Minecraft is not going to be a big blockbuster. Honestly, Minecraft is probably going to do pretty bad, if we're going to be honest. But we'll see what happens. Black Bag made another $4.4 million, $24 million overall. Good for it, but it's made on 50, so this isn't good. It's got good reviews though, so that explains why it probably had a decent drop. Captain America: Brave New World, we talked about, made 4.1 million, just crossed 400 million, so good for it. It needed about 420 to break even though, so it's I doubt it's going to hit the 420 mark. I really do. Let me put it this way: if it manages another 20 million out of its ass, which I don't think it will, it's that I'll call it a wash. I think they can say, all right, it made enough money that we didn't really lose much on it. And that's the thing too. Even as a loss, it's not a huge loss, which is at least good. But yeah, not the best, unfortunately. Mickey 17 made her $3.9 million, $110 million against the 117 budget. Man, not doing well. Not doing well. And again, I think it really comes down to marketing. Well, marketing and the fact that the film, while a good film, is also a weird film. It's like it's just not even weird in terms of like its subject matter, although there's certainly aspects to it that fall into that category. It's more weird in the sense of its tone is just very awkward. It feels like that guy, that weird guy you sit next to on a bus, like, hi, yeah, hi, how you doing? Yeah, it just turns around, just like that's the kind of film this is. So yeah, 110 isn't going to cut it. It still has to hit about 300 million, roughly speaking. So yeah, and again, I chalk it up mostly to the advertising, not knowing how to really market this film. They marketed it as a lot more comedic and wacky than it really is. Not saying it isn't comedic and wacky, just it takes itself a bit more seriously than the trailer implies. Noah came in at 3.7 million. Hey, I will give this movie its credit over Love Hurts, which is, I think, a good comparison comedy to this. It made over its budget. It's made on 18 million, made 21. I don't see it making its money back. It's probably got like 20 million in marketing, so it's got to make about 60 million roughly to break even. I do not see that happening whatsoever. And again, oh no, an unexpected error has occurred. Well, let me go back here. An unexpected error has occurred. An unexpected error has occurred. Oh, come on. Really? There, okay. Do I have to redo this video at some point? Yeah, apparently an unexpected error has occurred. Well, okay. Let me see if I can, we'll just talk briefly, because the rest of it is pretty much just, very minor winnings. The day the Earth blew up, Alpha Knights was the next in line after Novocaine. Did not open strong. Magazine Dreams didn't even crack 1 million. And my guess is that's partly due to the fact that new evidence surfaced against Jonathan Majors. Day the Earth blew up didn't really do all that great. But then again, it was barely marketed for theaters at all, so maybe it didn't need to make a lot of money. Really, there's not, and let's see here. Okay, error occurred. Will it get me back now to the screen at this point, or is the error just going to keep occurring? Very rarely is an error. Oh, well, no. Oh, wait, we back? Domestic. All right, let me go back to the actual screen here. We gonna go back to the screen. Hey! This doesn't normally happen, folks. I have not seen the Box Office Mojo server error, please try again soon thing in a while. Okay. Well, honestly, seeing as that's now popped up, and you can tell how centered my screen is, we'll just talk a little bit about the rest of the films that came out this week. Last Supper apparently still is doing okay. Made $1 billion. Those films never really make a lot. Trying to think about everything else that's currently in theaters that's making a penny or something like that. Yeah, Mickey 17's just not doing very well. Paddington is making, I think, less than $1 million now. No, I take it back. Paddington made over a little bit of $1 million, and it's made $190 million, which, if I had done my math correctly, assuming I was lowballing the marketing, and I got the marketing right with the lowball, that would actually mean this film broke even overall, which is good. And I've gone on length on why I think Paddington 3 didn't do all the best. Otherwise, really not much else to talk about. Surprisingly, even though there's an error here, there's not much else to talk about. But yeah, again, if you want to include or Ninja 2 in the worldwide box office, you go right ahead. I will not be doing it, and I've already explained why I will not be doing it. So if you're gonna ask me about it, don't ask why are you not including it. Did you not watch fucking video? Like, did you not do that? Did you just hear me say that and then click off and rage for an hour and then be like, oh, click. So yeah, hell, maybe that's why the server's having issues. Maybe they're taking it off of there. I remember during last year, when Despicable Me and Kung Fu Panda came out. I don't know what monkey was typing Hamlet on the keyboard for the admin site, but for a while those two movies like reached like some odd $1 billion in like the first weekend for whatever reason, because someone either was being a dick and just playing a joke, or someone wasn't calculating something right. I actually wouldn't be surprised if someone was just being a dick. But yeah. Honestly, yeah, there's just not much else to talk about. Snow White, we've talked about Snow White now. By the way, again, let's just go, just to summarize real quick, the controversy surrounding it is kind of bullshit. Not even kind of, it's pretty bullshit. I've watched the interviews of Rachel Zegler. She's just not, she's young. And she doesn't have a lot of tact. And when you're young and don't have a lot of tact, you might think you're a bit more charming and personable on camera than you actually are. Like when she does that, he might get entirely. He might get cut entirely. It's Hollywood, baby. Like the whole, being in love with a stalker. Weird. Like, oh God. Like, look, from what I can tell, she's a perfectly fine. Like, look, if you don't agree with whatever politics she has, fine. But I will admit, like, that's. God, the level of cringe coming off of that. And like people say, I don't want to use the word cringe. Why not? It's apt. It's the right word to be using here. Cringe. Like I'm watching that, I'm like, it's less than what she said is problematic, because frankly, most of what she said legitimately holds up. Like again, I always said the one thing that she actually did say that I like scratched my head on was, oh, I didn't even like the original growing up. Really? Then why are you in a remake of the original? Like, you don't get a say in the writing. You're not directing it. So, okay, fine. Now, again, she's a young working actress, a role like this, paycheck, obviously, and maybe you can become iconic. But I will admit, like, that one comment made me go, huh? Otherwise, her saying the prince is a stalker, like, if you actually watch that film, yeah, like, no, I wouldn't call him a stalker per se, but he like comes up and kisses, by all accounts, a sleeping or dead chick that, for no reason. But it's true that was kissed to wake her up. He doesn't know that. He just sees a lying unconscious chick and kisses her. In fact, I think there are versions where it gets grosser than that. So, honestly, that comment, perfectly fine comment to make. The weird comment about it being is like, oh, she's not focusing on her love so much about ruling her kingdom. I made a comment saying that's Snow White and the Huntsman. And by the way, that romance is still in the film. It's so what? Let me see if they fixed the problem now. Hey, did they fix the problem? They fixed the problem. There it is. All right, let's see how long this problem stays fixed. Honestly, there's not much else to talk about anyway. So let's just go through the rest of this real quick. I was right. The Monkey is at $60 million. I saw that. It's made money. Actually made a good chunk of money. Dogman's at $128 million. It's made its money back. And quite frankly, there was not much else I had to talk about. All right, cool. So I really didn't miss much. But yeah, again, I think she just doesn't quite know how to handle herself in interviews at the moment. So we'll see what happens with her down the road. But this week's a big week. 3-movie week, folks, for me. 3-movie week. Now, it's not going to be Being Maria. Maria Schneider's rise to fame after Last Tango in Paris' controversial production impact her life and career. Oh, it's kind of a documentary, biography. Okay. But got The Woman in the Yard, which I want to see. I'm curious on what The Woman in the Yard, like what she actually is. She's some sort of supernatural specter. Can manipulate things with a shadow. That's really cool. The Working Man, always down for a Jason Statham beat 'em up flick, 100%. And Death of a Unicorn. That's my date night movie with my girlfriend. We both saw it like, okay, we gotta see this. We gotta see this. So this is gonna be one of those rare weeks where I'm like, oh no, I have to actually see all the things that come out, all the main things that come out this week. So yeah, I might do. So I'm definitely gonna be trying for a date night with my girlfriend on Thursday for Death of a Unicorn. Friday, I'll try for one of the other ones, and then Saturday I'll try for the third one. Anyway, and then the following week is when we get Minecraft movie. And what the hell was Wake Up? In an attempt to draw attention to an environmental crisis, young activists decide to invade and vandalize furniture stores. The protest quickly turns into a massacre, and they find themselves trapped with a hunting-obsessed night guard. Huh. Not what I would have expected with a title called Wake Up. So, what do I think the box office is going to look like this week? Okay, all right. I sadly don't think Death of the Unicorn or Working Man is going to be number one. The only one I think that has a shot at number one, being a Blumhouse horror film production, is Woman in the Yard. Unfortunately, Blumhouse has also had a loss lately with Wolfman. It's the first time in a while Blumhouse film did not make money. Even I don't know, I can't remember if The Strangers were the first one, the one that came out last year. I can't remember if that was Blumhouse. But Imaginary, even Night Swim, as bad as those movies were, they still made some money. First time in a while, Blumhouse didn't make money with Wolfman. Now, with that said, like I said, Snow White actually doesn't really have strong competition. The strongest competition it has for this coming month of April is going to be Minecraft from a demographic perspective. Young kids, people who play, adults too play Minecraft, but again, to be fair, Minecraft doesn't look very good. So it's actually very possible that film tanks and Snow White reigns supreme compared to it. Let me see here. Then that's Minecraft. This is April 4th. I need April 11th. So what comes out the following week after that? Drop. Warfare. Okay, that drop's not going to do anything. And then the 18th is going to be Wedding Banquet, Sneaks, Colorful. And then I know the following week is going to be Sinners. Yeah, there's, apart from Minecraft, there is nothing demographic or just high profile on it that's really going to hurt Snow White in terms of competition for the same type of audience. Yeah, Thunderbolts might not be the 100% type of audience, but it'll be the next big blockbuster on the way. So there's that. So if Minecraft doesn't knock it out, which it's not next week anyway, then it'll be fine. It's not going to be number one every week, but drop-offs might not be that bad. So the question is, what about Woman in the Yard? Oh, that's tough. I am expecting Snow White to take a much larger than 50% drop. I'm not saying maybe. Let's just go on the on the rounded number of 60%. All right. So what's 60% of 41? Well, let's see. That's 1.5. That's 50. Then you take off another 4.3, and you're looking at about $17-ish million next week, roughly, is what we're looking at. 17 to 18, 16 to 17, roughly speaking. Does Woman in the Yard make more than that? That's the question. I think it could. But remember, I am being conservative on this. It's possible it takes less than 60, which means it would still be in more the lower 20s. I'm going to go with my gut on this like I normally do. I will still say Snow White will be number one. I don't think it'll be by a lot, though, but I think it'll still be number one. I will then go with The Woman in the Yard. I'll then go Working Man because Jason Statham clearly can still draw an audience. The Beekeeper made a nice little chunk of money. It wasn't like a box office sensation or anything. It wasn't like 300, 400, 500 million plus, but it made like 150 some odd million against a relatively low budget. So people still want to go out and see Jason Statham kick ass. So I will say, yeah, Jason Statham. In fact, he might even beat out the Woman in the Yard. I'll still say Jason Statham's Working Man will be number 3. Then I'll go Death of a Unicorn because it's just the next new release, and everything else will be under 4 million. So yeah. After that, I will conservatively say Captain America will still be in the top 5. So again, Snow White, Woman in the Yard, Working Man, Death of a Unicorn, Captain America. I could be dead wrong in all this, by the way. Like, legitimately, I don't actually feel confident in any of this, pretty much. So we'll have to wait and see what the box office really looks like next week. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you later.